Hello, everybody. I am coming to you today with what may qualify as a gem, and thank you to the Patreon member who will recognize themselves, who recommended that I look at BioStem. I like BioStem very much. What is BioStem? They're a commercial stage company. They were a research-only company for years, but now they got their patents approved and they are FDA approved. And this is a company that works as, well, I guess I'm going to call it a bandage. So their name is Vendaje, which I suppose they branded the Spanish name for bandage into Spanish, and now it's not their brand Vendaje. But it's, and I have no idea how you pronounce that, by the way. They also have another brand which is called Amnio Wrap. It's literally a quote-unquote Band-Aid disruptor, Band-Aid being a trademark for bandage. It's a disruptor of Band-Aid for wound healing, and for specifically those wounds that have a very, very hard time getting healed. And so when you read about this company, they talk about wounds mostly that don't get healed after 30 days. Wound that still stay open after 30 days. Well, for those cases, which apparently is much more common than what I would have thought, for those cases, they offer these, get this, shelf-stable placentas. This, you see this? This is a piece of a placenta. I cannot think of something cooler. Like, this is really, 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 really cool. I mean, in my view, it's super cool. So what are these? They have a system to collect placentas, and they cut them. This, I don't know if you can see, but this is actually very, very tiny. You see, they have an optic version of this allograft that is just for the eye. These are very tiny placental allografts, and so they get them from placentas, and then they turn them into this process, a specific, patented process that they have, where they can turn these placentas into a 4-year shelf-stable packaged product, which is a placenta that has been treated and that has been, quote-unquote, dried in order to be used as a bandage. And apparently this bandage has absolutely wonderful property, and it helps you heal wounds when your wounds won't heal with conventional techniques, i.e. if 30 days you've been to surgery, your wound is still open after 30 days, you may qualify for a placental allograft. And from what I understand, this is kind of a blockbuster bandage, I guess is how I would call it, a blockbuster bandage. The product is brand new. The product has been commercially available for 9 months, based on what I can say. And look at all of the places where you can use this product. So you can use it in surgical center, dermatology, mobile plastics, podiatry, private offices. They do private offices, hospital, inpatient, home health, mobile health, nursing facilities, assisted living, right? So nursing home type facilities, hospital outpatient. All of these are systems that would be eligible to use this new generation of bandage. And I'm also very excited about this because you may know I'm a big fan of a lot of futurist books, like, for example, Peter Diamandis. Peter Diamandis always talks about the insane waste that we have with placentas. Placentas, so many times, are just being thrown away, and they are actually a source of major biocomponents that could be used to help heal, to help the health system. There's a lot of talk about, say, for example, the stem cells in the placenta, hence the name BioStem. In their case, they are doing bandages. Let me just show you a little bit how this works. The Placental Donation Network. We learn things every day. I didn't even know that existed, right? There's a Placental Donation Network. So how does that work? You have an expecting mother, and they are being informed that they can donate their placenta. Then they like it, and they consent to donate the placenta. Then once the baby is born, the placenta is retrieved. Then they do do testing. They do testing on the donor tissue, testing of a placenta. They call it the placenta microbiology. And then they take what they need from that placenta, have it go through their proprietary process and terminal sterilization, and then they package it, and it's a 4-year shelf-stable packaged product. And so in the 9 months ended of their last quarter, they recovered 5,000 placentas, and they turned them into 100,000 bandages, 100,000 4-year shelf-stable bandages. Again, these are small, and placentas also are pretty large. They're larger biological collection. So anyways, they do a 20x, right? They do 20 times more. They probably can do much more. I don't know their process. Their process is proprietary. I just find the idea quite genius, if you ask me. More interesting things about this. So first of all, those of you on my channel who like moats, who always tell me, oh, they don't have a moat, anybody can copy them. Well, in the case of BioStem, no, they don't, because they have 3 patents issued, 24 patents pending, total 28 patents standing with their bioretain process. And they hope to have, and they have OxoCell, which is, they've had 37 patents for some reason issued on that one. So they hope to have 41 patents. They have 41 patents issued. They hope to have, at the end of this whole process, 69 patents issued. And they do things like, their patents are for all sorts of issues. And feel free to read those, from joint to Peyronie's disease to dermal issues, processing. Anyways, feel free to read those. I'm sure there's going to be many more applications. What I love about it is the regulatory pathway. You may know that, let's be honest. Biotechs, they have returned more than tech stocks. The problem is, how do you pick the biotech? Biotechs are very difficult to pick, and they often are solely dependent on, many processes, but one of them is FDA approval. And in the case of BioStem, it seems like they are going through a different process of FDA approval. They're regulated by the FDA, of course, but they're regulated for a risk of disease transmission. They are not regulated for a specific indication for use. So what that means is they're a bandage. So a bandage is, per my understanding, easier to get regulated because you are not you're not a drug, you're a bandage, and regulating bandages is easier, and so that's why they've had relative success doing that. Okay, another point. So they've been able to scale, and they've scaled their growth. For example, in the first quarter of 2024, they went to market, and so they started commercializing this main product that you see right here, which they call, what do they call it again? They call it the Amnio Wrap 2. This is the 2024 revenue driver. This is what they've commercialized. This is what you see pictured right here. The Amnio Wrap 2, they commercialized it with this one company, Venture Medical, and they've had a lot of success selecting that one partner. And their upcoming products that you see, the Vendage products, they're going to commercialize them also coming up with this same commercial and distribution partner. So they've had quite a bit of success. If you go on the website, they kind of explain to you how it works. It's a process that's heavily driven with reimbursement and getting reimbursement from Medicare, which they got. They got pricing for Medicare for 1 year, which is why the stock has popped, as you'll see in a second. It's a game of getting the insurance companies to pay, getting Medicare to pay, and to me the commercialization seems solid, because the website, it's a very sales-driven website. If you go there, they tell you the code for a physician to input the code when they order, but also the numbers speak, right? You go from 0 to 116 million in 6 months. Those numbers speak. And I listened to the conference call, and in the conference call, they mention how essentially it's been overprescribed. It's been overprescribed, and so there's been some talks with Medicare, because Medicare is like, oh, you're prescribing it a little too much, and so that's a sign that you may have a blockbuster product. And I understand, because on the surface, at face value, it would make a lot of sense why these bandages would work better, because a placenta is kind of this base layer skin, if you want, this base layer skin that is probably better than whatever we have right now in the market, at least to the best of my understanding and my knowledge and my discussion with my in-house doctor. Also, from what I understand, they probably have a lot of applications with this placenta-based product. And talking about the chronic wound market, so BioStem is doing what? They're addressing a large chronic market. Did you know this? I had no idea. Apparently, there are 7 million people in the United States that have issues with non-healing wounds. Chronic non-healing wounds. And these include things like pressure ulcers, diabetic foot ulcers, venous ulcers, surgical wounds that are not closing, and arterial ulcers. So this one being related to heart disease. And so, when I look at that, and it's a market that's predicted to grow, by the way, at 10% compound average annual growth rate. And of course, being in the healthcare sector, we know we have an aging demographic, which is why it's a sector that has performed so well. And I think that is positioned to perform very, very well because of aging demographic, right? Is it going to be 15 million non-healing wounds? Is it going to be that within a 10-year period, something like that? Because of course most of your health needs, they are after you reach 65. That's when you can have these ulcers and these wounds that just won't work. Speaking of that, and this is an opportunity that they discuss in the call, they are working on a type of bandage, placenta-based bandage for that diabetic foot ulcer. That's going to be a future application. And they were mentioning that this was costing Medicare alone. The ongoing maintenance of diabetic foot ulcers is costing Medicare alone apparently $13 billion. So they would be tapping into that total addressable market, and they're working on a version, a special indication or use, right? So they are publishing these studies, and they're working on a study to show that their Amnio Wrap 2 product seems to be more effective, or would be perhaps, hopefully, and this is how these studies goes, and these stocks tend to be very reactive to new studies coming out, but they want to show that their Amnio Wrap is a much better process than the current standard of care, and that would open to more eligibility for payer coverage, as they call it being commercial plans, i.e., your insurance at your job, but also Medicare, which is the big deal in this market, is getting Medicare to cover it. Now, they got Medicare to cover a major part of their product, which is why the stock popped. And as this stock popped, I'll get to that in a second. Moving on to the revenue growth. And by the way, in many ways, if you look at how many times they've multiplied their revenue compared to how much the stock has popped, actually the stock has not popped enough. But let's look at the revenue. So 2023, they had 16 million in revenue. First half of 2024, they are at 116 million, and actually year to date, I'm sorry, these slides are slightly old, but actually year to date, they are nearing the $200 million in revenue year to date. I suggest you look at the updated data. This is a company that is actually GAAP profitable. They have earnings already, and they have many good things going for them. So one of them is that gross profit. And I checked that because usually it's fishy, right? When you see a gross profit of 95%, usually it's fishy. So I checked it, especially when it's not a royalty company. I listened to the Q3 call. Yes, it is actually 95%. They actually have 95% gross margin on that product. So again, I've never seen something this profitable. I don't know if they're paying anything for placentas. I don't know how the process works, but it's extremely profitable, which is why they are also GAAP profitable, and their earnings per share is in the pennies now. So anyways, they have major growth plans, so they want to grow for market expansion, growth and profitability. They want to strengthen their reimbursement, getting more reimbursement, and they're looking at potential acquisitions. I always want to be careful with acquisitions, but given the size of that company, it would likely be only small acquisitions, so the arm is reduced in that case. And they are OTC right now, which is the main problem of this stock. They're OTC, so you can pretty much only get it in like a very old school broker. Like if you go to Schwab, you'll be able to access it. But if you're using Robinhood, it's not on Robinhood because it's OTC, but that's also going to change because they are working on getting listed on the Nasdaq, and they hope to have an application to get listed on the Nasdaq by Q4 of 2024. So if I were to buy the stock, I would buy it on, say, a Schwab, and then, when they come listed on the Nasdaq, then you can transfer it to a more modern broker because they will be on the Nasdaq. And of course, you may say, okay, so this company is quite cool, great. Why are you covering it? There's a lot of cool companies in healthcare. Well, yes, there's a lot of cool companies in healthcare, but you know that I select my companies based on the numbers, and that's the part we're all waiting for. BioStem is cheap. It's very, very cheap. Yes, turning placentas into band-aids is a pretty cool thing, but I would not cover it if it wasn't cheap. And despite the stock doing a 20x over the past 5 years, despite the stock doing a 6x, 6 times your money over the past 9 months, despite that, believe it or not, this stock is extremely cheap at, and it all, this is where the issue or the objective or subjectivity of this analysis goes into it. Is like, what's going to be the forward growth rate? Well, I have no idea. Analysts, from what I see, they seem to be saying it's going to be 260% over the next 12 months. But if I put 260% in the spreadsheet, I know what I'm going to hear in the comments section, that I'm being too optimistic. I always hear you when you say I'm too optimistic. So what did I do? I assumed 80% growth and 160% growth. Keep in mind that this is a company that's been going from such a low base that their growth has actually been much higher than that. Look at their year-over-year revenue growth. For example, first half 2024, 6,978, right? Even from Q1, 7,000% growth. So these numbers don't make sense because of the law of large numbers. I realize that, what if they 5x their sales, right? That'd be 400%. I don't know if they're going to do that. I'm going to be extremely conservative. I'm assuming A, 80% sales growth, and I think that's a lower end. And B, I'm assuming 160% sales growth. And so you can look at valuation. How much am I paying for that growth? My usual valuation, right? Enterprise value over gross profit over revenue growth. I get a 0.015, assuming 80% growth in the product. And I think that's very conservative given the momentum, the growth momentum, the revenue momentum they have. I think that's very conservative. So in that case, given that their EBITDA margin, they are profitable, like I said, it's 10% EBITDA margin. Okay, and you had 80% revenue growth that I'm predicting, that'd be a rule of 40 at 90. Knowing also, I didn't use trailing 12 months. No, I noted that on the spreadsheet if you have it in Patreon. For 330 million, I haven't used trailing 12 months because that wouldn't make any sense because I have some pre-revenue quarters in there. So I used Q3 and I 4x'd Q3. That's how I got to 330 million run rate in sales. So I'm assuming they will grow 80% over the next 12 months from a 330 million a year run rate at gross margin of 95%, EBITDA margin of 10%. Then I have my two favorite metrics, EV over GP over RG. Like I said, it's a 0.015. Rule of 40 is a 90. If I do the exact same numbers, but this time I am using 160% revenue growth, which may to some still look conservative. In that case, I get a 0.008, so under or 0.01, and a rule of 40 that is nosebleed at 170. Rule of 40 for ultra high growth companies doesn't make much sense. But then again, for a company that is predicted to grow this fast, does it make sense that it would be only trading? Well, first of all, at current sales, like run rate sales, it's trading at less than 1 time sales right now. Like a 0.8 times sales what it's trading at. But at forward sales, it's trading between a 0.6 and a 0.4 forward sales. So not even a ratio of 1. So again, very, very cheap, very under-researched, under-noticed, under-followed. Listen to the call. It's the quickest conference call. The analysts are few and far between, if any. They're lucky they got 2 analysts on there. So anyways, when I compare it to other companies like LifeMD is dirt cheap, of course, but it's a 0.05. So LifeMD is about 3 to 4 times more expensive, right? HIMSS, that's probably roughly 10 times more expensive. So again, the company's cool. I like that very much, but it is dirt cheap, which is why I am covering it. Thank you to the Patreon member who has suggested it to me. As always, if I end up beginning a starter position, and it would only be a very, very starter position on this one, if I end up doing it, I will post it on the Patreon. As always, this was not financial advice. This was not investment advice. This is just entertainment. Hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe. Follow me on Patreon. Follow me on X. Thank you for watching and have a wonderful, wonderful day.